Welcome to Summarizing a Text. This is Mrs. Marriott, and we will be going over how to summarize a text. To summarize a text or story is to put it in your own words. It is important to state the main idea and leave the pieces that are not essential for understanding out. Keep in mind that summarizing is more than retelling. It involves analyzing information in order to distinguish the important from the unimportant. Summarizing allows you to check your comprehension of the story, but it is also used for writing. We will be doing a lot of informational essays in which summarizing is a skill you'll need to have. So, important steps to follow after reading the text. Keep the most important details. Using a highlighter, highlight the most important words or phrases. Circling important vocabulary words will ensure that they are included in your summary. Get rid of the less important details. If the details or information is not essential, just don't highlight them. The text you are attempting to summarize should not be all highlighted. Write it in your own words. If you take someone else's work and copy it word for word, you are plagiarizing. It is important to create your own work. Plagiarizing will often lead to no credit on your assignments. We will discuss how to write your summary in your own words. Helpful things to look for. So these things will be helping you create your summary. Not only were the text, that's the biggest part that you need to look at, but sometimes just looking at the clues will give you the main idea. So here's the first one, the title. We'll be reading Hurricane Nature's Wildest Storm by Aaron Ryan. The title, it tells us what it's about. So if you're telling me about a thunderstorm, then you didn't read the title. The next part is subtitles. So you can see these parts right here. This is going to give you the main idea or a closer look as to what this information right here is all about. Just keep in mind that these subtitles are very important and they're very helpful. Bold words. Now, the subtitles and the title in this are the only bold words you'll see here, but in future text and in actually a couple other pages that you will receive, there are words that are underlined or bolded, and those are words that you want to pay attention to because often those are words that are vocabulary words or just words that help with understanding. So keep those in mind. The next one is pictures. You've been taught since you were in kindergarten that pictures are helpful for understanding, but they're also helpful for you to help summarize your story. So keep those also in mind. Now the first step, even before you summarize, is to read it one time through. Take this time to really read it and make sure that you know what it's talking about, and then we will go through and we're going to highlight the most important information like we discussed. Now that you've had a chance to read this, we're going to go through this first paragraph together and summarize it. First, you'll be watching me, and then you can go back and highlight it after I finish. After we have done this a few times, then you will have the opportunity to do your own. So first I'm going to do, then we will do, and then you will do. So let's try first by reading this, and as we go we will highlight. Hurricanes Nature's Wildest Storms by Aaron Ryan. You may already know that hurricanes are major tropical storms that can cause devastating waves, winds, and rain. They happen during hurricane season. No, that's a good word, so I'm gonna highlight that word right there. Maybe, there it is. Which is from June 1st until November 30th in the Atlantic Ocean, and from May 15th until November 30th in the Pacific Ocean. Now, right now, that's a lot to highlight, but I feel like I need to do some generalization. So I am going to keep those dates of May to the end of November, but I'm not going to highlight all of that. And when I go to write it down, I'm just going to make a generalization that hurricane season is from May to the end of November. So this is what that would look like. And then I'm going to keep reading. A hurricane that forms in the Atlantic Ocean begins as a tropical disturbance. Ooh, that is a good word. In fact, that's such a good word that I think I'm going to circle it and make it one of my vocabulary words. This is a large area of windy thunderstorms that form over the ocean, the warm ocean near the equator. Now that is the definition of what a tropical disturbance is, so I'm going to highlight that. When the storms grow larger, rains and wind pick up and the disturbance can develop into a full-fledged hurricane. So I'm going to highlight just this part right here. When storms grow larger, they become hurricanes. And there you go. I have just highlighted and circled the things that I feel are the most important. This is giving me a little bit of an idea of when hurricane season is and what hurricanes are, just a drop in the bucket. I can make this into 1 to 2 sentences when I go to make my actual summary. We're going to move on and go with the next paragraph. Please pause and highlight and circle those words that I have already done, and get ready to read the next 3 paragraphs and work those through together. With this page, we're going to try it together. So first, I'm going to do the first one for you, but the next 2, I'm going to have you help me out. You're going to work with a partner to get these next 2 done the best you can. So start by reading. A storm progresses through 4 different stages before it is actually considered a hurricane. And I feel like that is pretty important. So I'm going to highlight 4 different stages. The first is a tropical disturbance. And again, I think that's important. So I'm going to highlight that, which has a thunderstorm and rotating winds, or what scientists call cyclonic circulation. Now, my first instinct was to highlight cyclonic circulation, but I'm thinking about how I normally write and who I'm writing for, or who I'm giving this summary for. And if I'm giving it for other people in my class, then of course I want to use words that are more natural for me. So I'm going to go with thunderstorms and rotating winds. But if I'm trying to impress somebody, I might try cyclonic circulation. So here I go. Thunderstorms and rotating winds. Here we go. You may highlight cyclonic winds if you'd like, or cyclonic circulation. Anyway, let's move on. Next is a tropical depression, which is similar to a tropical disturbance, which we talked about on the other page, but has winds between 23 and 39 miles per hour. So I feel like that's pretty important information, so I'm going to highlight that. So a tropical depression has winds between 23 and 39 miles per hour. Okay, so that's the next part I'm highlighting. And then a tropical storm is the next level, which has stronger wind speeds between 40 and 73 miles per hour. Again, I feel like that's important. I'm going to use that. I'm going to give those quick information because I feel like that's important. Then the next sentence says, once winds reach 74 miles per hour, the storm is officially classified as a hurricane. The winds pick up energy from the warm surface ocean water. So I'm going to highlight 75 miles per hour, and that is when it's a hurricane. However, I am not going to highlight this part. As I went back and reread, I realized that this has already been highlighted on the other paragraph. So I'm actually going to cross this out to remind myself that I have already done that on the last paragraph, in the last paragraph. Now, I would like you to take some time and read this with your partner and see if you can come up with a few words that would help us to summarize our text. So again, you're going to read it to yourself or with a partner, and then highlight just those important words or phrases for our summary. And then we will check back in and do it and see if you got the same answers or similar answers as I did. Please push pause at this time, and then we'll come back when you're ready. Let's see if what you highlighted is similar to what I chose to highlight. Again, yours doesn't have to, but You have to try and find the main idea. So let's see if yours matches up. Here we go. Hurricanes rotate counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. So I feel like that's pretty important, so I'm going to highlight that. Actually, maybe. I hope. So counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. That means the northern part of the globe, the water goes counterclockwise, while the southern part goes clockwise. Let's move on. Hurricanes can vary in size and can grow to have a diameter of up to 600 miles, which is longer than the entire state of Florida. I feel like the fact that they can vary in size, that means that they can be small or big, is kind of important. I don't know that I will include this specific details just because, again, it's supposed to be a summary, so it's not supposed to have a ton of these big details because it's not essential. Let's move on to this next paragraph. As a hurricane crosses over land, it begins to dissipate or break apart and reduce in strength. So I feel like that's important. Crossing over land causes it to break apart. So that's what I put. This is because it is no longer over the warm ocean water that is needed for energy. I'm kind of debating on that. Right now I'm going to leave it blank, but as I go back over, I may choose to include that in my summary. I'm not sure yet. So at this point, a hurricane can still cause a lot of damage because of high winds, rain, and flooding, but unless it makes its way back over the open ocean, it is downgraded from a hurricane back to a tropical storm. So I feel like they can still cause damage. That is pretty important. And being downgraded from a hurricane to a tropical storm is also important. That is what I have. If you have a little bit more, just be cautious and realize that we want only the meat, only the parts that will help us explain what a hurricane is, so that we don't overwhelm our reader with exactly what we've, was already put in the original text. So take some time and check your work. Please push pause, and when you are ready, let's move on to the last two paragraphs. With a partner, you will now do these last two paragraphs, hurricane dangers. Remember to find just the parts that are most important, the main idea. It's phrases and words that will help you to put all that we have highlighted together into one paragraph. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do this. Please pause the video and take this time to try out this technique. And when we come back together, we will be putting it all together in a written document.